Hey, this is Nikki with One Life Students. Are you too messed up to live out God's purpose? Let's continue our series, A Book of Beginnings. A lot of times when we think about people in the Bible that God uses, we think of them as being these amazing, perfect people, and it convinces us that we could never be used in that way because we're kind of messed up. Today we're going to dive into 4 characters in the book of Genesis who, let's be honest, were pretty messy people. The first people that I want to talk about, the first characters, are Isaac and Rebekah. Now, if you've been following this series, we've been talking about Abraham and Sarah. Isaac is their only son, and Rebekah is his wife. And so we pick up on their story in chapter 26. It says, "Now there was a famine in the land besides the previous famine in Abraham's time, and Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gerar. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, 'Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and will bless you. For to you and your descendants I will give all these lands, and will confirm the oath I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and will give them all these lands, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed me and did everything I required of him, keeping my commands, my decrees, and my instructions.' So Isaac stayed in Gerar. When the men of that place asked him about his wife, he said, 'She is my sister,' because he was afraid to say, 'She is my wife.' He thought the men of this place might kill me on account of Rebekah, because she is beautiful. When Isaac had been there for a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked down from a window and saw Isaac caressing his wife Rebekah. So Abimelech summoned Isaac and said, 'She is really your wife. Why did you say that she is my sister?' Isaac answered him, 'Because I thought I might lose my life on account of her.' Then Abimelech said, 'What is this you have done to us? One of the men might have slept with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us.' So Abimelech gave orders to all the people, 'Anyone who harms this man or his wife shall surely be put to death.'" If you've spent any time in Genesis and you've been following along with this series, you know that Abraham, Isaac's dad, pulled a stunt like this a couple of other times as well, where he said that his wife Sarah was his sister to kind of save his own skin. So God had told Isaac to stay in this place, that he was going to be safe there, and he was going to protect them, and he was going to keep the covenant with him. But Isaac was still fearful, and so he tells this lie that he eventually gets caught in. At this point, I'm thinking Abimelech is probably like, I've seen this before. But even though Isaac doubts God and he does something out of fear and he tells this lie, God is still faithful to him and provides protection and keeps the covenant with him that he made with Abraham. We're going to give you some questions to dive into this chapter and read through Isaac's story a little bit deeper. Let's talk about Isaac and Rebekah's sons, Jacob and Esau. Now, when Rebekah was pregnant with them, she has this vision or this dream that the older brother is going to serve the younger brother. And so that leads her to doing and making the decisions that we'll read about in this chapter. But in this chapter, in chapter 27 of Genesis, Isaac is very old and his sight isn't what it used to be. And he calls his oldest son Esau to him and tells him, "Go out and hunt some wild game, make me food the way that you know I like it, so that I can give you my blessing." And we're going to pick up in verse number 5 where Rebekah has listened in on this. It says, "Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, 'Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die. Now my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, so I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may give you his blessing before he dies.' Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, 'But my brother Esau is a hairy man, while I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing.'" So Rebekah calls Jacob to her and creates this scheme or this plan to bring her dream to fruition. She's once again a broken person, not trusting in God's plan. She thinks that she knows best. And she even goes so far as to take the skin and fur from those goats that she's killed to cook this meal, and she puts them on Jacob so that he feels hairy like his brother. And throughout this story, Isaac gives his blessing to Jacob, and Esau is without the blessing. Now, I would encourage you to read the full chapter of chapter 27 in Genesis so that you can hear that story. But the point is, again, we have these broken people in Jacob and Rebekah that aren't trusting in God's plan, but God still partners with him, and he still continues that covenant that he has given to Abraham's family and continues to work through him. So take a moment to read through this chapter and engage with it with the questions that we give you. We just talked about Jacob, and Jacob goes on to have many, many, many sons. And his youngest son, who's born to him in his older age, is Joseph. Joseph becomes his favorite son, and he's not very quiet about this favoritism. He lets it be known to all of his sons that Joseph is his favorite, and he even gives him this beautiful, colorful coat. And you may be familiar with this story of Joseph and his coat of many colors. But Joseph, being the youngest brother, is a little mouthy sometimes, and he has a dream and he shares it with his brothers. So we pick up in chapter 37 of Genesis in verse 5, and it says, "Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, 'Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field, when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it.' His brothers said to him, 'Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?' And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and what he had said. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. 'Listen,' he said, 'I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me.' When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, 'What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?' His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind." Now, Joseph's going around bragging about these dreams, and he gets on his brother's bad side even more than he already was, and they actually end up plotting to kill him, but they decide instead to sell him into slavery, and he ends up in Egypt, and the rest is history. God continues to work through this loudmouth kid who just can't keep his dreams to himself, and goes on to use him in his greater plan. We have a couple more questions for you that we're going to put up on the screen so that you can dive into chapter 37 and learn more about Joseph's story. We've just been focusing on the book of Genesis, but throughout the Bible, we see God partner with and work through extremely broken people. And that gives me so much hope. And I'm sure that that gives you hope as well as a follower of Jesus, to know that no matter how broken we are and when we mess things up at times, God is still choosing to make us his partner. He's still choosing to work out his purpose through our lives. I hope that's given you some encouragement. Please take some time to go through our engagement questions that you can take out into your week. And please try to make this a part of your daily devotional time. It's so easy. You watch this quick video and then you can spend 15 to 20 minutes more reading through scripture and really spending time meditating on these questions. Thank you so much for joining us for this series. And as always, keep seeking and keep searching.